what's
So
called,
I
if you
think
want me
I'll
to
let
talk about
you.
it, also I have disabilities and I can just talk about the different, like kind of like transferring those if you want me to also
Yeah.
speak about that a little bit.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's bring that in for sure. Okay. Are you ready?
Best I'll be.
Welcome to the Transfer Nation Videocast and Podcast. Transfer Nation aims to create a network and community of educators who work with and advocate for transfer and post-traditional college students. Our mission is to build community, transform culture, and empower success for transfer educators and students by sharing resources and celebrating all things transfer.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Transfer Nation Videocast and Podcast. I am Heather Adams, and today in our student story episode of the Transfer Nation podcast, we are very fortunate to have Aaron Chacon with us, who's going to talk about his transfer experience and share a little bit of information about a unique region in Maryland where he's from and how the transfer system is set up there, how it worked for him, how it could work for you if you're a student listening, and also give a little bit of feedback on how that system runs smoothly or not so smoothly in however he sees it. Aaron, welcome to the program. We're really excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I'm going to let you dive into this complicated system of the University of Baltimore and the Montgomery County universities and the 9 universities in Shady Grove. I really am going to let you tackle it and describe to us what the system is like and what your experience has been like there.
Saddle up, because this is a lot of information. So my name's Aaron Chacon. I've been living in Montgomery County for basically all my life. I attended Montgomery County Community College. Originally was there for civil engineering, but then I swapped majors into game design after I couldn't get my head around physics and chemistry that well, which is kind of acquired. Then I graduated from Montgomery College in 2020, which was basically, so my last semester was affected by COVID. So that was kind of interesting part. And then, so I graduated with my associate's degree, 63 credits, and then I transferred to a kind of a little special program. So I transferred to the University of Baltimore to go into the coding and development track of game design, basically. But I didn't attend the University of Baltimore campus. I attended what's called University of Baltimore at the Universities at Shady Grove. Universities at Shady Grove is basically a special campus of where 9 colleges all kind of came together and had this one campus in Montgomery County, because Montgomery County, we have a wonderful education system here. The only downside is there's no 4-year colleges in the county, as far as I know, and as far as I've looked up. So what other colleges did is other colleges surrounding the county that are in Maryland, they created this universal kind of campus where you can come for your like specialty classes. So for me, it would be my gaming and development classes, and I'll go to the campus and I'll take those, and I'll be taking my general education classes online. And at the campus, there's currently Bowie University, Salisbury University, Towson University, University of Baltimore, University of Maryland, Baltimore, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, University of Maryland, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, and University of Maryland Global Campus. There's a lot of Maryland there. So all those 9 universities share that one campus. So there's like a little bit of faculty from each campus there. If there wasn't COVID, I would be currently at that campus taking my game development classes there, taking them in person. And then I'd be taking my gen eds, like my English and stuff, like all of that online.
First of all, I want to make sure I'm really clear on the system. So you went to Montgomery College where you got your associate's degree in gaming. Is that right?
Yeah, computer and simulation design. is what we call
Got it. Oh, got it. Sorry, I need to.
But just gaming for short.
Okay, got it. I was using the lingo. I was using the inside lingo. Um, so, and then you transferred those credits to this unique system at University of Baltimore at Shady Grove. So normally you would be taking classes at the Shady Grove location through faculty from.
So yeah, I would be taking my specialty classes for my major. So that would be really kind of last semester. I didn't have any gen eds. I had all kind of specialty classes just to take a bunch of them. So I had basics of program, well, not basics, but basically, for lack of a better term, level 3 programming, multiplayer design, business of game development, and then a level design class, which is, if you haven't played video games, basically that's like designing like the shape, like making the actual world. So making the buildings, the terrain, the people that go in there, kind of that kind of stuff.
First, I want to hear a little bit about what inspired you to take this transfer journey. How did you get to Montgomery College and then University of Baltimore?
The high school I was graduating, we had a program called PLTW, which was a engineering focused program. So each of my last 4 years of high school, I took some form of engineering class. I originally wanted to leave into civil engineering. I was hit by an unfortunate series of events, which was around kind of winter time, which is when all the college application deadlines are. We had to move. So that was a fun experience. So I basically missed all my deadlines. And I was just like, well, I don't know what to do. And I kind of just was like, you know what, let's try Montgomery College, which was our 2-year associate's degree community college, which does have a lot of majors. I think right now it's currently recognized as top 9 colleges, either community colleges or just colleges in the country.
How did you find that once you got to Montgomery College? What was it about that community college experience that that helped you find your path or your professional purpose?
What do you mean by that exactly? You mean by finding the major I wanted to be in and how to transfer?
Yeah, exactly. Your major that you wanted to be in and this interest that you have in gaming, obviously, that I'm assuming that's kind of what you might want to do professionally or after graduation. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty sure, well, you probably won't be able to see it, but I am seriously into gaming. If you can't tell from just this setup right here. Over here, I have a racing rig. On my shelf, I have flight sticks, and I've spent probably who knows how much money into upgrading my computer and keeping it up to date to run us all the games as possible. So I've always had a long passion for video gaming. The way how I originally got into engineering was when I was a kid, I liked to break stuff. I like to take things apart. Hell, I like those big old fat monitors. I would just take a hammer and break out its screen. Probably got some kind of bad chemicals in my lungs from that. I don't know. That really had me in engineering. And I really, anytime there's take your child to work day, I would always go with my dad to the construction sites and concrete. And I just loved kind of building things and taking them down. It kind of came to a limelight after my first semester that maybe engineering, it's something I love, but something that I just can't do quite easily because physics is a whole entire genie in a bottle. Chemistry is another one. And I was too scared to uncap those bottles. It's just something that I cannot easily quite get my head around. Stuff like that. The equations were a little bit too complicated. And so I was like, okay, what other programs does Montgomery College have? I saw they had game design. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do something, might as well pick something that I've already invested thousands of dollars in at home. Might as well invest a couple of $1,000 somewhere else to learn how to actually make the stuff I love. So I then swapped over to game design, and my counselor the counselor for at least the game design at Montgomery College kind of was very straightforward to me. She was like, you're leaving engineering, which is something that has many opportunities for you. Civil engineering is specifically because currently, right now, a lot of our infrastructure is currently hitting its maximum lifetime, and we are some of that infrastructure is beyond its maximum lifetime. So she told me straight up that basically you're leaving something that has a lot of opportunities and coming into something that's an inflated market. Because currently you have a lot of students like me who obviously want to go into game design because, yeah, we love games. It's already, what do you want?
Who is that? Tell us who's there. Oh, so for everybody who can't see Aaron, first of all, he is completely decked out. He's got like a mic, but like not just a mic on an arm. He's got headphones with the little the speaker mic. Oh, and look at this sweet pea. Who's this?
This is Evie. So she is
Evie. So for those of you listening on the podcast, she is a beautiful, I would say,
white golden retriever.
White golden retriever. She's quite
technically
large.
She's called English cream.
Oh, English cream. Of course you are, because you're beautiful. Hi, sweetie. Hi, sweetie. Thank you for that. I needed a little puppy love.
Yeah, game development is a really tricky business. And so kind of back to coming to inflated, it's nowadays where it's like, if I want to get in it, I either have to get my foot in the door, more like just kick it down, to trying to get into some place. I'm constantly looking at Indeed, LinkedIn, like every job search place for an internship. And the moment I see the internship, it's already been accepted because they already got like 3,000 applicants for it. It's an extremely inflated market, to put it very simply. So so yeah, she was very brutally honest with me. And so that I originally learned the transfer experience from actually a very different point of view than most students. Most students, you'll probably have a college transfer fair at your community college, which we had those. I didn't quite go to them because I was like, whatever, I'll deal with that in my second year. However, I had to get a federal work study for some reasons to help my family because state required it. And so when I went into the federal work study, I actually was I was a student assistant for our recruitment department at Montgomery College. So what that meant is I was actually going with my supervisor, Kim Brown, and I would be going to high schools, even visiting my own high school, which was kind of weird. And basically saying, hey, come to Montgomery College. Like I'd help kids with applications, with FAFSAs. Like I kind of got to know the ins and outs of actually coming to Montgomery College. For those students out there, the best way to kind of, well, this was at least from my college, from Montgomery College, because again, we were one of the top community colleges of the country. Some places may not be as fortunate, which sucks. But I easily put it this way, because at times I was talking to students and they're like, why should I go here? And I'm just like, well, easiest comparison for my generation that I came up with is shoe brands, because everybody likes those Nikes, those Jordans, all that stuff. Now imagine those brands as your top tier colleges. So in Maryland, that would be University of Maryland, Bowie, Towson, like a Yale or something like that. And what I said was, so Montgomery College is basically everything that quote unquote Nike University of Maryland shoe is. The only thing is there's not that University of Maryland Nike logo on it. It's a completely different brand, something off-branded, but it offers everything and it's a lower price. And that really kind of got a lot of students on board. They're like, it's name branding. And at a point, there's probably more than just name branding, which is why the classes are so much more expensive. But that was an easy way for me to put it, because like we have the transfer programs at University of Maryland. So I kind of learned about that, and I would talk to the students about that. They were like, whatever, I want to transfer. I really kind of know only more my major. So for me, it was the transfer program to University of Baltimore. At Montgomery College, they showed me both aspects of game design, which was the art part of it. So animation, drawing, modeling, and then there's the coding development part, which is will development, basically using a program that's called Unity Engine, which is a game development program. And so coding, all that kind of stuff. And so they showed me both aspects of that. And they had a specific transfer program to University of Baltimore. So University of Baltimore accepts all my gen ed credits and then all my specialty major credits. But when I transferred to University of Baltimore, they took everything and they were like, okay, now which do you want to do? Do you want to do art? Because I saw what art and modeling was at Montgomery College, or do you want coding and development? Because I also saw that at Montgomery College, and I wanted to do coding and development because I cannot draw art. I'll be straightforward. I cannot draw art. I cannot model. But you want to type code and develop a world? I can do that.
And I love that you have this, you really had a unique perspective as an insider. You kind of got to see what was of value about the transfer experience, the programming, the transfer programming, the transfer advisors, and kind of the quality of the faculty that you were working with. So you got to kind of see that as an insider first and then experience it as a student yourself. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That gives you kind of a rich perspective, and it also gives you the perspective of both a student and sort of a staff person at a school, because you were seeing it from both angles. And it sounds like you have some great advice for students. You know, it's a cost savings, it's really great quality, especially at the community colleges, and that you have gotten to experience. Is there any other tips or any other students are listening to this? Is there something, what in a couple of sentences, what would you say is your kind of top recommendation to them or top tip?
Look at all your options, and then because if you go into a community college, I'd say look where your options are going, because this is kind of a semi-annoying part. So when I was originally in civil engineering, my first semester, I was talking to my professor about where can I transfer, stuff like that. And I was very quickly learning that a lot of colleges don't take specific classes. Like, yeah, they may take a gen ed or two, but say one gen ed teaches one thing instead of another, compared to say like if I was at Montgomery College, I was taking a science class, and I'm not saying this is true. Might as well get that out of the way now. This is not accurate. This is something me just pulling out of my ear. They'll teach, what was I talking about? So like say both University of Maryland and then University of or Montgomery College, or Montgomery County Community College has a science class. They are mainly similar, but say instead of one unit, I'm learning about, say, environmental science. I'm not being taught environmental science, and say Maryland requires that class has environmental science. That class would not transfer, which is utterly annoying. So I'd say kind of, I don't want to say take your gen eds or get all your gen eds out of the way first, because that kind of leaves anything, but like try, I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, I
basically confer with your counselor to find what tracks a community college transfer experience could lead you to.
Exactly.
Because university, my track for gaming and design, when I swapped over into that, I realized that's focused only into University of Baltimore. If I wanted a full transfer experience and I didn't want to take over classes. If any college people are listening to this, figure out something universal, please. That makes our life so much easier.
That was my next question, because you made a very good point, right? You said, you know, students should do their research. They should meet with a counselor. They should make sure that the units and courses they're taking transfer, and then they're not wasting time and money and effort for something that's not going to be accepted at the other school. But I love your point to staff and faculty and leaders who are listening to this. unify a system, right? Talk to each
Yeah,
other
even
and
though
create
it may
something
not
fluid.
be easy, at least maybe figure out things like start like state by state. So like to those college leaders in the University of Maryland, find a easy program for the community colleges or colleges in general to kind of find one universal, like, I understand if specialty classes are not transferred, but gen eds, like, seriously, like, what I think US is one of the few countries that's like you're extremely required to have gen eds, and so figure out something universal, please. Like, gen eds, I feel should at be some point kind of made to a degree universal throughout a lot of colleges. And I understand like tossing in a few twists in there, but make some kind of universal class.
You know, I think you said something really pivotal. It's what I'm spending a lot of my professional purpose and job doing is encouraging states and regions and universities and institutions to talk to one another and create a fluid, seamless system that really works for the student. So I really appreciate
The
your
best way I'm
sentiment
thinking
on
about
that.
it is like the Common App. Like have like a common app, except have that be classes and its transferability. So have a common English, have a common math, have a common algebra, have a common science, have a common yada, 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 yada.
Yep. I love it. Okay. So as we wrap up, I want to hear from you if you were, just for folks in the world, folks, we talk about, so I love your analogy of the shoes, but as we talked about with, what happens is sometimes because something's not a name brand, there is a stigma or a bias or a little bit of a thought about what that might mean. What do you want folks in the world, your family, your friends, folks who aren't in community college or haven't taken that path, what would you like them to know about the transfer experience?
I'm trying to think how I want to say this. Back to the shoe brand thing. I'm somebody, so speaking about actual shoes for a second, I'm one of the people that had just the same brand, durable, something like that. And if somebody came up to me and said, "What are those?" Don't care. Ignore it. Ignore them. You do what you want to do. If it's going to make your life easier and if you're going to leave with no student debt, do it. Because I can tell you this. I have had the luxury of not having to take out a loan yet, because taking in-county classes, at least from Montgomery College, not only was I getting all my classes paid off, I got money back. So ignore all the stigma. Don't care about them saying name branding. What is that? What are those? Ignore the stigma. Ignore them.
I like that feedback, and I really I want to have a goal of really ending that CC stigma, because I'm with you on the on it.
Before I forget about it, shall I talk a little bit also about the disability transfer?
Do you want to? Are you comfortable talking about that?
I'd love to hear about I'm comfortable talking about that. So straight out there, I have ADHD, if you cannot tell. I am very hyperactive, all that kind of stuff. Because of that hyperactivity, I do struggle with reading. I think when I was in 9th grade, I had a elementary school reading level, or like reading comprehension level. So I was really struggling with reading. So I had a IEP put in, which is basically a education plan that is surrounded around me specifically. There's a different plan called the 504, which is a lot generalized, kind of like check boxes. For me, it was more like, hey, you actually have to fill in the blank on how we help them. And so I came out with basically like reading software to kind of help me, because if I read something, it can be a lot different than, say, if you read it to me. It can have a completely different meaning. And so I was easily able to transfer that IEP into Montgomery College, and they kind of had a little bit more checkbox system, but they still they had a lot more checkboxes than the kind of the high school system had. And so when it came to transferring to Montgomery, came to transferring to the University of Baltimore, it was actually relatively easy. The only thing is just like there wasn't as many checkboxes as I used to have. So it was mainly just showing them, hey, this is my plan Montgomery College gave to me. They were luckily able to take that. And I actually will have to do a different thing, hopefully when COVID ends and I can actually attend campus, which is I actually need to also go to the universities at Shady Grove campus because they have their actual own kind of like disability office in general, because you can't have a disability office for all the 9 colleges there. So they kind of have like administrative groups for like those kind of things where you would usually have at a regular college. It's a group that serves all those 9 universities. So the transfer from Montgomery College to University of Baltimore is basically sending them my previous paperwork, previous basically accommodations for each semester, and then I just tossed in my IEP because it shows a lot more detail. And then what I would do if I was at campus is I would then go into basically their disability office for my in-person classes that I would take there, and they would figure out how to apply them based on what I need. So like say if I needed a reading system to me, which most commonly would be Kurzweil. If you don't know what calm down you. If you don't know what Kurzweil is, that's basically a system that will read to you in a kind of more fluent voice rather than Microsoft text to speech or something like that. It'll be a little bit more fluent, kind of how like me or any other person talks, to make it a little bit more easier to understand. And so it'll read to you a paragraph. And so like I would have access to that system. I have a comedy to have my desktop or my laptop with me at all times, so I can type things up as needed because my handwriting sucks and it's a lot more easier for me to type. And then just kind of other things which kind of I want to say are kind of universal across campuses, which is double time for tests. If there's a surprise test in class, they have to still give me that extra time because I also have anxiety. So when you smack me with a surprise test, I am going to freak out, and not in a good way. Last time I think I was given a surprise test, I was outside in the hallway crying because I was scared of failing and stuff like that. Hell, I was having a panic attack this last semester when they said, okay, you have to write a request for proposal in 1 hour. I was like, ah! And so just kind of like other accommodations and stuff like that. Luckily, the transfer is easy. I think the main thing is obviously if you don't have accommodations at first, is probably originally getting that foot in the door of saying, hey, I need a little bit of help. And for those like me, don't be afraid to get help. I wish I got help sooner. Help is helpful. Help is not helpful when you don't ask for help. So yeah, that luckily it was just an easy transfer for the accommodations, which was nice.
Aaron, I'm so glad that you shared that, because this is something we don't talk much about in the transfer community, but many transfers are working with their students' disability office. They're doing exactly what you did, having to transfer over those accommodations in some form. And often community colleges actually have very good accommodations and do provide great support in the way that you had. And sometimes it's not the same at the 4-year university. If you have the paperwork, if you have all of the the doctor's kind of records, usually it's not a problem, but that's a big part of transferring, is transferring all of your information. So that,
probably also learning the new systems, which was that was a new thing for me. So Montgomery College had a kind of, I want to say, like when you logged into your, as we called it, your MyMC, which is your profile, how you access your classes, your grades, your online classes, like with basically kind of all that stuff given to by the college. It was a lot more 21st century than UB, I'll be honestly. UB is kind of a little bit more rough around, like rough HTML, not as fancy, a lot of kind of like looks like old school buttons. And I'm just, originally when I saw that system, when I transferred it, I was like, oh, like, I'll be honest, because for what's it called, for a gaming community, and I have to use, do you know what hex chat is, or like IIRC chat? For those who don't know who that is very, very old software compared to like today's modern, like, say, like, probably this was probably more known, like Discord or like some kind of modern chatting software. That was kind of what I was into. University of Montgomery College was the Discord. Then I took a step back and was in IRC chat with University of Baltimore. But luckily they still had modern things. It was just this old wall that's still sitting there.
You have talked about so many really important aspects of the transfer experience that just are incredibly vital for folks to know as they're stepping into the process, to make it go more fluidly so that they're not surprised and they're not sitting there like, you know, in shock over a new system. Or even if you are in shock and you are having anxiety about that, at least you're prepared and you know it's coming, so you know you're going to have to navigate it. So
let me just say this one more thing.
Yeah.
And this is kind of, I realized this a little bit, kind of people kind of gave me the stigma of like, and this is back to like the disability topic a little bit. They're like, you have, like, you need accommodations and stuff like that. And because, so like, you look at me, I don't look like a, for lack of a better term, I know this may sound a little terrible, like, I don't look like somebody who has disabilities and accommodations, because there's that stigma of like, when I would line up there to be in test, there would be soccer jocks in that line. So it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if they actually look disabled or if they don't look disabled. They can have problems. So don't be afraid to reach out for help if you're a jock or something like that. Or if like somebody that's like afraid, like, oh no, there's going to be... They're here to help you.
Even agrees. Right. Hallelujah to that. Amen to that. I am so appreciative of you sharing in, and it is incredibly, incredibly essential what you're talking about. So thank you so much for sharing your experience, sharing your journey, and being really authentic and open about it. I think it's gonna just, it really helps me as a person who works in higher ed understand the student's experience. I was a transfer student, but I'm not a transfer student now. You're the expert in the experience right now, and I really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for listening. To continue the transfer conversation, be sure to join the Transfer Nation Facebook group at tinyurl.com/wearetransfernation. You can also follow us on Instagram at wearetransfernation and on Twitter at transferpride. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at tinyurl.com/tnationtube. If you have ideas for future episodes of the Transfer Nation videocast and podcast, please email us at wearetransfernation@gmail.com. We can't wait to continue celebrating all things transfer with you. And as always, in Transfer Pride.